So today we're taking a look at the Kato E5 series Shinkansen in N scale, and this is a Japanese high-speed bullet train. And this set comes with 3 cars, an N car, a pantograph car, and the other N car. And before we get started, I'd like to thank BonsaiHobby.com for sponsoring this video. They are an online hobby store from Japan, and it's where you can get these Japanese model trains, among other things. There is a 10% off coupon code I'll leave in the description. If you guys are interested, you can go check it out. Alright, so this is car number 1, the lead car in the train set. It comes in this cool turquoise livery, a pink stripe on the side, and white on the bottom. And a big characteristic of the E5 is this really long nose, which is actually designed to get rid of the tunnel boom sound when it's going through tunnels at high speed. It does have a glossy texture, a lot of shine, and on top we have the cockpit for the train driver, and it does have the set number written here, U4. Look at the inside, we have the windshield wipers, kind of simple design, just lines, and the controls are off to the right side. And there's also some headlights at the top of the cab. And if you look at it from the side, you can see the cockpit has this aerodynamic slope around it, and underneath we have this small little snowplow. And then down below we have the wheels, which the top half is completely covered up, but if you lift it you can see the rest. Now along the side we have lots of molded in details like vents and panels. Then on the side we have the cab door and the regular door, and there's indents for the railings and the door handle. And this was random too at the bottom. This is car number 1, no smoking, and apparently they have rain gutters above the doorways. Then moving along we have the small display, says reserve seating. There's the car number and this panel. Above we have a small bump, and there is interior detail. You can kind of see the armrests of the chairs inside. Move along to the back we have this larger display, and this train is the Hayabusa, which runs from Tokyo to Hokkaido. Then we have the Hayabusa logo, which Hayabusa means peregrine falcon, which is a metaphor for speed. The shading for this is pixelated though. Now here's how it looks like in the back. We have this gangway connection, which is spring loaded. The gangway and the coupler kind of move as one piece, which it pivots from the bottom. Now here's a look at the other side. It's pretty much the same thing, just the logo is backwards and the bottom detailing is different. Now let's go check out the top. And actually I never realized just how wide these white parts on the sides are, and the blue part actually dips inwards in the middle. Then over here we have some lines on the roof, which is not smooth and glossy like the front. And in the back we have this gray roof hatch, red line around it, and yellow at the edge. Now let's go check out the bottom. The axles are black and there's a bit of fluting inside. Then we have some molded in panels, and it is made in Japan, and the movement of the coupler has this gull wing shape. Alright, so this is car number 7, the pantograph car. Now the ends of the car are slightly different at the bottom. This car is also the powered car, so if you look down below, the trucks actually have gears inside. Then along the sides you have lots of seating, bottom detailing, and on this end we have this trapezoid shape on the roof. And here's a look at this end, and here's the other side, pretty much the same thing, just the bottom detail is different. Alright, so now let's go check out the roof. Here we have a raised section around the pantograph, which is supported by these 2 suspension springs. There also is this antenna to the side. In the instructions it tells you to use the screwdriver to raise the pantograph. And apparently this is the range of motion it can go. You actually don't need to move it much to be in the proper position, and this bottom half doesn't really move at all. But yeah, here's how that would look like. Now for the rest, there's some ribbing across, and this panel at the end. And now let's go check out the bottom, where we have the powered bogie, some box molded in, and an arrow. And there's a hole with the drive shaft, which is blue. Alright, so this is the last car, car number 10. Now how's it different from the first N car? Well, this car actually has the Grand Class. Here's their logo, and it's a step above first class with luxury seating. They have a lot of room between each seat, so the window spacing is a lot more spread out. And it doesn't have that door in the back. It also has different bottom detailing from the other car. And here's how it looks like on the other side. Now in this car there's an additional switch in the front, which does open up the front nose, but you can also push this part in. And inside you can see there is a coupler, and here's how the cover looks like. And to extend the coupler even more, you can pull this switch. And the coupler has a wide range of motion, and here's a close-up of it. Now as for the other one, it is missing that switch below, but you can still open the nose. However, this one does not come with a coupler, so they are not the same. And to put back the nose, you just slide it in. There's not much of a sound though. And this car also comes with this headlight switch, which you can turn off if it's in the middle of a train, and it would disable these lights up here, not present in the other car. Alright, so now let's go see what it looks like connected. Pretty easy to do, and it's connected by this little segment at the bottom. And here's how the full train set would look like. Here's the range of motion of the cars, it's pretty flexible, and here's how it looks like from above. And to separate them, you just pull them apart, it's fairly easy. So I also got the E6 series Komachi. This is often paired with the E5 series. This set also comes with 3 cars, 2 end cars, and 1 pantograph car. But yeah, let's get started on this car. So this is car number 17, one of the end cars. This train comes with a red roof and an off-white body. It has a nice glossy texture to it, just like the E5, and the shape is quite similar as well, but the headlights are mounted on the sides rather than being on top. There also is this red spike going up. Now if you look at the cab, you can see the windshield wipers are painted on. Taillights in the middle, and this is set number Z6, and a bit of the controls inside. There also is a silver stripe going along the roof edge, and the body has this jagged edge around the wheels. And here's the doorway with the retractable step, car number, and it has interior seating. There also is this reflective silver stripe along the side, and I believe there's a luggage compartment in here. And it says this is going to Akita, which is in northern Japan. The back door does have this wider step, and here's how it looks like in between cars. And here's the other side, which looks to be the same thing, just the bottom half is different. I also noticed there's a small P, I don't know what that stands for. Now let's go check out the roof. Behind the cab there is this little indent only on one side. I don't know what's it for, but Lila says it might be an antenna. Then in the back we have some lines on top and some yellow markings. Now let's go check out the bottom. In the front we have a snowplow, and it actually does make an indent here in the middle. Then we have the truck and the other side. Alright, so now I'm going to take a look at the pantograph car. Over here we have the Komachi logo. Now apparently Komachi is named after Ono no Komachi. She was a Japanese poet from the 9th century, and that's her hair flowing. And here we have the doorway, which this one is much wider, so it is wheelchair accessible. Then further along we have some windows with some reserved seating. And at the end of the car we have the conductor's window. You can see it's taller than the other ones. And here's how it looks like at the end. And here's the other side, which there is an additional window here on the end. And here's how it looks like from the top, again with the yellow markings, lines going across the roof. And in the back we have the pantograph to draw power from the overhead lines. And these things are actually asymmetrical, so the fins go up on opposite sides. So here's how the pantograph looks like when it's raised. There also is a subtle indent in the middle and a radio antenna fin. Now let's go take a look at the bottom. This car also is the power car, so it does have the motor inside. In the middle we have some molded in detail, so it's an arrow going that way. Alright, so now let's go check out car number 11. This is the other end car. Just if you compare it to the other car, you can see the window sizes are more spread out, and this is because they are a green car, which is first class. And the rear door is also wider. And here's how it looks like on the other side. Now let's go check out the roof and the bottom. This car comes with switches for the coupler and the headlights, so they work pretty much the same as the E5. Here's the coupler inside, and now let's connect it with the E5. And here's how it looks like paired up together. You can see the range of motion is quite big, but if you want to be more realistic, you can actually retract the couplers into the body. However, this will severely limit the range of motion, and you can't take quite tight curves. Now here are both sets combined. You can see now the train is very long, and they actually do this in real life where they travel together and they split apart. Now if you look at the E5 manual, to disconnect it, it tells you to rotate both the cars upwards. But in the E6 manual, it just tells you to pull them apart horizontally. So it is strange that they have two different methods. So originally when I was trying this, the angle one, it didn't really seem to work. It felt like I was going to break the coupler. So I just pulled them apart normally, which worked out fine. Now the reason why this didn't work is because you actually have to retract the couplers first, then you angle it. So make sure you do that. Alright, so now let's compare both Shinkansen, the E5 versus the E6. So the E5 is actually a standard Shinkansen, while the E6 is a mini Shinkansen. So if you look at it from the front, the E5 is much wider than the E6, which has a smaller loading gauge. And both of them come with this off-white color, it's called Hewn White. In terms of length, the E5 is much longer, and the cockpit starts further back, while the E6 has a short nose. And they have totally different designs for the pantograph system. E5 is much larger. Also, the placement of the headlights are different. E6 is on the side, while E5's on the top. I do like the E6's windshield wipers. They look more detailed than the E5's, which just look like lines. And here's a look at the ends. The gangways are pretty much the same design, just the E5 has a more boxy body, while the E6 has a curve on top. So So it does come with extra slots so you can add in the re-railer and all the cars in the first set, so it's pretty convenient. So I also got this add-on pack to fill in the train. This is set A, comes with 3 cars, the pantograph car, and 2 intermediate cars. So this pantograph car is actually near identical to the other one. The only difference is car number 3 and the middle of the bottom section is different. And same thing goes on the other side. Another difference is the pantographs, they actually face opposite directions. It also doesn't have a motor inside, so the wheels are free rolling. So next up we have car number 6. This is just your plain intermediate car. This one has a covered window, probably for the luggage again. And here's how the opposite side looks like. And the roof is pretty symmetrical. And here's how it looks like from the bottom. Alright, so this is our last car, car number 9. It does have a wheelchair accessible doorway, and it's also the green car, which is first class. Now if you go further along at the end, there's actually a conductor's window here. The green car also has more spacious seating, so if you look closely, the window spacing is more spread apart. It is a subtle detail, and here's the other side. And check out the bottom. And here's the formation with the add-on set included. It makes it look like an actual train rather than only having 3 cars. So this set comes with 4 sizes of track, the curved super elevated track, a long straight track, and then 2 short tracks. So here's the straight track. It's actually 2 tracks parallel to each other, and it's using these modern concrete ties. This is opposed to the standard wooden ties, which Shinkansen probably don't use. There also is a dip in between the tracks, and there's also a hole in the middle where the sprue was cut. And here's how it looks like from underneath. Alright, so now let's go check out the curved track. And apparently they come in 2 different types. If you look at this track, there's actually uni-joiners in the middle, while the other track is just one big piece. And that's because these ones with the uni-joiners are transition tracks. So if you look on the bottom, this says P-cow and an arrow on this end, while the other side says P-car and the arrow's on the opposite side. And in the middle, you can see there is no arrow. So the arrows actually represent the parts that are super elevated. So L and R means left and right. So you actually want to split them apart and connect it to the super elevated track and make sure these arrows are facing each other. And then you can connect it to straight track. So this is super elevated track. These tracks are special in that they allow trains to bank on curves, so you can see it is tilted, and that's because one track is higher than the other. And here's a comparison with a regular curved track. Super elevation just adds more dynamic to this than being flat. It also allows for a higher speed limit because of reduced friction, and it keeps it from tipping over the outer edge. And then here is the short piece of track. In the back you can see they are different. This one is a feeder track. Each track is powered separately, and there are holes on the sides for the wires. And that's how it looks like with the wires connected. So since these are Shinkansen known for their high speed, I want to test how fast they are. So I measured how fast it would cross this floor plank, which is 9.5 centimeters. So at max speed, the E5 went 0.95 meters a second, which is 3.4 kilometers an hour, which in real life terms is 544 kilometers an hour or 336 miles per hour. Now compared to the real life E5, which has a max speed of 320 kilometers an hour, it adds an additional 224 kilometers. And I also did a speed test on the E6. And it turns out they run at pretty much the same speed, and that's actually what happens in the prototype. Now in the past, I've done speed tests on the Bachmann SL Express, the Mahano TGV, and the Pico ICE3, all in HO scale, and this Kato N scale Shinkansen, they just blow them out of the water at 336 miles per hour. Now underneath the car there is a switch to disable the headlight, so when it goes forward the headlights don't turn on. And this is useful if you want to disable the lights in the middle of a connected train. Now before we get into the final thoughts, I'd like to thank Banzai Hobby for sponsoring this video. They are an online hobby store from Japan selling a wide range of Japanese hobby items like trains, model kits, RC cars, gunpla, and a lot more. And they give me a coupon code you can use for 10% off. I'll leave the code and the link to their website, banzaihobby.com, in the description down below. So for my final thoughts, I think the Kato E5 and the E6 series Shinkansen are an excellent pair of Japanese trains. They run pretty fast and they don't derail even at high speeds. They are well detailed with interior vents, panels, LED boards. I really like their sleek glossy finish and the colors just pop. Also the cool feature that you can couple these trains together just like the real thing. One little thing I think could be better though is the E5's windshield wiper is just too simple looking, it's just a line. I feel like the E6 has a better shape for that. As for the add-on set, I definitely think it's also great to get because you have a nice decently sized train, not only 3 cars. And I also really like the storage bookcase. I think it's well designed and you can add in the original rolling stock with it, so it's really convenient to store in your bookcase. Kato actually did produce an HO scale model of the E5 series, however it's been discontinued and it's widely more expensive, selling for over $700 on eBay and over $1,000 for the full train. So I think if you're going for Shinkansen, I would just stick to N scale as it's more affordable and readily available. And lastly, for the super elevated concrete tracks, they did include a pretty interesting layout where the curves actually vary and it's not a simple loop design. And it's also 2 tracks in one, so it's great for running 2 trains at the same time. The super elevation is subtle since this is a smaller scale, but it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.